Welcome to Great Life Coaching. This is a short video on my experience growing up Latino. Thank you. So growing up Latino, I know is going to be different for everybody who is Latino, or even if you're interested in what that is. We have many different names we go by. In general, I prefer Latino because that covers all Latin America. There's Hispanic. That's questionable for me because that's pretty much anybody with Spanish heritage that speaks Spanish. Then you can narrow it down by the region of Latin America you're from, like Mexican American, Puerto Rican. You get it onward. But for myself, just to be clear, I am Mexican American, and I consider myself Latino. Before we start deep into it, I came across something called LatinX, or LatinX, however they say it. I really didn't know what it was, so I did some research, and I came across this video that kind of explains it. I'm going to play a little bit of it, and then we'll discuss.
Latinx is a gender-neutral term for Latino or Latina. Because Latin, the already gender-neutral alternative, just isn't good enough for some people. Why do so many media outlets, journalists, and celebrities continue to use it? Well, to understand that question, we have to understand where this term came from in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, look no further than to the non-binary community.
What's up, young people? My name is Luna, and I identify as non-binary.
For those of you who need the quick rundown, una mujer es una mujer y un hombre es un hombre. Simple, right?
So he explains it pretty fast, and I'll put a link in the description for his video. But so basically LatinX was created for the non-binary gender, so those that don't identify as male or female. And in general, when you're speaking about Latin American people, whether it be male or female as a group, we are called Latino. So growing up, I knew I was not white, obviously I'm not black, either one. However, the kind of confusing thing is if you look at my birth certificate, it says white. What's that all about? Well, apparently I was born in the 70s, so they really didn't track Latinos or Hispanics. In general, we were white, and they started to track it because of the disparity of income and opportunity. So as a kid, I really didn't know anything about the difference of Latinos or whatnot, but my family led me to believe we were Hispanic and oriented from Spain or from Canary Island. That was my experience all the way through high school, and I had all sorts of friends. We really didn't talk about race or anything like that as kids, but boy did I have a culture shock. That culture shock was when I joined the Army, and my one station unit training or basic training was in Kentucky. Now I didn't see much of Kentucky. I flew there, basically got on a bus and went to Fort Knox for training after that. I got there on a weekend, and there's nothing happening on a weekend. I think it was a Saturday I got there, and they just assigned me some barracks and left us. It was cold. I had no winter gear, no uniform, no nothing. So they assigned me a bay, and they tell me you're not going to get your stuff issued to you till Monday, so just make do. This tall black, I guess he was a man, yeah, we're all men at the time, but we're still kids, comes to me and he's speaking Spanish, and his last name was Hinojosa. I've never met a black person who spoke Spanish before. Now the funny thing about it, he speaks Spanish and English, and I only speak English. Before we go any further, there is a reason why I only speak English living in Texas. My parents believed that back then that it was a hindrance to learn dual languages, to learn two languages. My mom was convinced that it took away from your intelligence, it took away from how people would perceive you. But in reality, I wish I did learn, and I could learn now. I don't know why I don't. Maybe that'll be another video. So Hinojosa, after he looks at me and he figures I can't speak Spanish, so he talks to me in English. He asked me where I'm from. I told him San Antonio, Texas. And he said he's from El Salvador. And he gave me some of his uniform items to help keep me warm. He showed me around, showed me where the showers are at, showed me bathroom, common area, and he introduced me to a whole group of people. This group of people, when I walked up to them, were all different colors: white, black, look like me, but we all had Latino or Hispanic last names. And for most of my time in the Army, I felt like anybody who had a Spanish last name, regardless of what they look like or regardless of what language I speak to, I knew I could count on them to have something in common. And that was my first real introduction of the Latino community and how wide and varied, and even how our the way we speak Spanish or the region of the country we come from, it's all different. But it was awesome because we had a singularity to us, and that was our Hispanic or Latino heritage. Side note, I also got along with the Filipinos because they also had Spanish last names. They were also looked like me, but we had a lot of relatable cultural similarities, and so I felt just as welcome with them as I did with my Latino brothers and sisters. So I got out of the Army in 2005 and came back to San Antonio, and man, was I shocked. Shocked because it now mattered if I was Mexican, if I was Puerto Rican, if I was Cuban, whatever. That they would ask, like, what's your heritage? And if you weren't the same, if you weren't Mexican, then we're not cool. And that rubbed me the wrong way because I just came from a time where we all got along. We didn't care where our differences were. It was more about what we had the same. And at this point, after the military, I worked for several companies. I worked for retail. I remember working at a mall on the south side of San Antonio where mostly people speak Spanish. And I would have people come up to me and just speak Spanish to me. And I understand why they do it. I look the part, I probably speak it, right? Just like Hinojosa figured out I don't speak Spanish, they would stop and be like, what do you speak, Japanese? And then it all started. I started to realize I started getting judgment because I didn't speak Spanish. I don't have an accent. I don't listen to the music. I don't dance to the dances. I don't do any of that that's supposedly the Mexican culture. So finally I realized I am Mexican. So I started hanging out with more people that were more like me. But I really never felt 100% comfortable. I felt more comfortable around people that were just accepting of me. So, you pick and choose your friends as you get older. And I no longer had a certain group that I hung out with. I would hang out with people that were same as me in other ways, not just language. Some of the things that I find in common is people with education, people with the same military values that I have, people with the same work ethic, and people that are just generally work on themselves. Those are the kind of people that I prefer to hang out with. Years go by, and I remarry, and not that what we are is important, but I started to figure, like, what am I really? So I went to 23andMe and I did a DNA test. Let's talk about my results. Here's my results. First of all, I'm 100% myself. That's good news, right? But the first largest percentage is 46.9, so 47% East Asian and Indigenous American. 46% Indigenous American, which covers this part right here. But you'll see this is highlighted. We'll go over that later. So 0.4% Chinese, not much. 0.4% Indonesian, and Northern Asian 0.2. Now, almost equal to that, you have European, 45.9, so 46%. 43.5% is Southern European, and that is right here. And that's Spanish and Portuguese, it's 41%. Italian 0.6, Brightly Southern European 2.1, Ashkenazi Jewish 1.4, and Brightly European, which is just general European. So I am half European, or you could say half white, right? Next, 3.2% Sub-Saharan African, West African almost 2%, Southern and Eastern African 1.1%, and broadly Sub-Saharan barely 0.2. I also have 1.5 Western Asian and Northern Africa, which is this area here, and you would consider that Middle East. So I am half North African and about half Arab, half of 1% at least, and the rest is general. Now remember we said we'd get back to this little area right here. Well, that is Mexico and Central America, which I always knew I was Mexican, but never could really, tell for sure. And specifically, I'm from this area right here, Nuevo Leon. Now, as a child, if I had been more perceptive, on my mom's side, her parents, my grandparents, their house, they had a lot of art of the Aztec warrior that would give his woman up for as a gift. And if those that are Mexican or that know about Aztec, you know what I'm talking about. If not, let's see if I can find a picture. There is a lot, but here's an example of what I'm talking about. The Aztec warrior carrying a woman. I'm not sure, well, princess it says in the picture. I'm not sure what this represents. If anybody knows, please educate me. So basically, I'm half Native American. Maybe not North American Native American. Well, yes, Mexico is part of North America. But I would be an example of what it was like when the Spanish came and bred with the natives. I'm half Spanish and half Native American, pretty much. So this is what the child of Spanish and Native American would look like, basically because my percentage is cut in half. So this has a little bit of struggle behind it because I really find it hard and very disparative that the stereotypical Mexican you see on TV or in movies is the Chicano that's a gangster, got tattoos. That's not me. That's not how I was raised. And I hope that who's watching this can see that the stereotypes don't fit everybody. Matter of fact, I would say the stereotype that we know of is the thug is a small percentage of us. The rest of us just are regular Americans that want to do well, that want same thing everybody else wants. We want our freedoms. We want to keep our heritage alive. We want to do better for our kids. We want an education. And I don't struggle with it anymore, but I used to struggle with not being educated enough for the general public. Because for the longest time, I didn't get my bachelor's degree till about 2018, so 3 years ago. And before I got my bachelor's, I was thinking, man, you got to be really smart to do it. But in my experience, it's not. Yes, you got to be smart to do it, but you got to have the will, you got to have the drive, and the means to go to college. Luckily, I was able to go to college because of the military. We don't all have that opportunity. So this was a very choppy session, and there's a lot more I would like to get off my chest, but I don't want to make these videos too long. If you have a different experience, hit me up, share it with me. If you had the same experience, let me know. If you know me and you didn't know I struggled with some of this stuff, let me know. But to all the people, I'll give everybody a chance. If you're a decent person, then you're on my side. But if you're not a decent person, I don't care what color, race, or gender you are, I don't need to talk to you. Thanks for watching Great Life Coaching. Have a good day.